Let's talk about time pressure rewards in Fire Emblem, and more specifically in Fire Emblem Engage. So it is a common thing in Fire Emblem games for there to be chests, thieves, and escape routes. And this is the perfect map to show this because you can see the escape route is this boat. The thief starts off on this end. The chest is right here. So you only have so many turns until the thief eventually gets to the chest, grabs the chest, and then starts to make his escape. Now, these are not on every map, but on the maps they are on, tend to be a few turns away. So when you want to go get the item, you have to plan ahead to some degree. In this case, there's a lot of enemies. There's like a siege weapon, so there's a lot I'd be pushing into if I want to go dive this chest or dive the thief. So there's definitely some things to consider. You can't just mindlessly rush in, unless of course you have a broken team. But that being said, do these add value? Like, are these interesting? I would say overall these are pretty fun when the rewards are good and when the game is kind of stingy with resources. So the more unique the rewards, the better, and the rarer the rewards, the better. And even like the best way to implement this would be to have rewards that are only found from these specific chests. So for example, a unique weapon or unique item with specific mechanics, that would be the way to do it best, because otherwise there's no like real reason to pursue these if you can't, or if you have a hard time doing so. There's a few things I'm going to go over in this video. So the first thing is, this does add time pressure to the map. Now most maps already have time pressure insofar as enemies attack you. So this adds extra pressure because then, you know, they dangle like a carrot in front of you and you have to go chase it. So if you can get it, you get some advantage, but it's at the cost of what is more or less inefficient play by chasing some item. So you're sacrificing good tactics for the most part in exchange for, you know, more items. So there's a reward and there's a risk. So there's increased risk and reward on a particular map. So that's what these do. And I think they add a lot to the map because they're optional. And if the rewards are good enough, I usually go for them. But now we get to the next point. If the rewards are not good enough, then why bother? So on this map, it's a speed wing. Now speed wing is good. It's +2 speed. But if you do all the paralogs, do you really need +2 speed? If you do all the paralogs, you can just level up a unit like 2 to 3 times on a particular paralog and probably get a point of speed, maybe 2 points of speed if their growth is high enough. So it's not the best item. It is a good item though, for sure, and it can help you build a unit. So it is worth pursuing. So in this case, I would say this is worth pursuing. Now in Chapter 13, there's a rescue staff that can be difficult to get to. And there are multiple ways to get a rescue staff, especially now after the well. And of course with the DLC, they just kind of throw items at you. So you don't necessarily need to get it and it doesn't really matter. So that's an example of one that's not as high impact. Now you can still go for it and you can still grab it, but the DLC and the well kind of undermine that. And that's a specific problem with Engage, where in previous Fire Emblem games, this could be like an Ocean Seal or a Master Seal or something like that, and there are only so many of those in the game, and it could be possible that you don't have enough seals to advance your classes. So back in the day, this could be like a real serious item that you would almost be forced to get. So it wasn't even like an option. So there's kind of, you know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? If you make the reward necessary, like in the case of limiting seals for promotion, then it can be difficult to promote your army, and then you feel like it's forced. If you make it optional and the reward is good, then you can optionally pursue it. But then there's also this third side where if you make it optional and the reward is not that good, for example, the Chapter 16 Recover Staff, like that's a decent reward. It's like it's, you know, pretty reasonably valued staff with a good healing amount and 10 uses. But that one I never feel like I need to get. It's not that hard to get, but it's just an example of one where it feels lackluster, right? Like a speed wing, that's pretty decent, especially when it's multiple rewards. So if there's like 2 or 3 chests and there's like some silver weapons in there and some other things that are worth a lot of money, it feels worth it. But it definitely varies from map to map. I would say overall in Engage, most of the time pressure rewards I legitimately do not care about, and they do not affect my gameplay one way or the other. The only like exception to this would maybe be like some of the early game chapters, like getting some of the gold or the energy drop in like Jean's paralog, or the gold from chapter 5. It's either 5 or 6. But yeah, that's not, or no, maybe chapter 4? Yeah, I think chapter 4 is the one where you get Chloe. But the ones where it matters, it's definitely fun and adds something cool. And the ones where it doesn't, it's still nice to have. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd still rather have like an item that's whatever and some optional challenge than nothing. Like if this map just didn't have this thief, there'd be less content. So it definitely adds something. But I do think the rewards, especially after playing through the DLC, the rewards need to change, in my opinion. Now, I don't know that they need to be like crazy or overpowered, but I think they should be a little bit better. Maybe some more unique items, unique weapons, unique equipment or something, unique like staves that only drop from these chests. I think that would be very interesting. I think in their current form, it's just like an advantage to get them if you can. And it's also there's also this other aspect to them where if you are good enough to get them and your team is good enough to get them, it's kind of like a win more button where you're just snowballing your resources more. So like if you could easily beat this map, for example, you don't need a speed wing. You know what I mean? Like, but if you can easily beat this map and easily get the speed wing, not only are you easily able to clear this map, but you're also getting more advantages progressively. So it's almost like one of these things where the better you're doing, the better you'll continue to do, and the worse you're doing, the worse you'll continue to do. So if you're not in a good position to get things like this, if you don't address that on your team, in a way you're falling behind statistically because you're not getting these items, you're getting less money, but that means less upgrades, and in some cases lower stats, so your stats aren't as high. But to balance these, I think the best way to do it would be to make the rewards good, like a little bit better. Now, Speedwing is a good reward, but for the level of effort required to get it on this particular map, especially if you don't do that many paralogs, I don't think it's really worth it unless you have some really good gimmick to getting it. You have to get through a bunch of enemies plus a siege weapon to get to it, and you're being, like, you start off the map surrounded on all fronts, so it's kind of debatable. Now, if you're using, like, exploits or gimmicks or, like, really powerful enemy phase builds, then yeah, you can go pursue it. But if you aren't, it's just one of those things where it's just going to slip through your fingers. So, yeah, it's hard to say, like, how the game should handle things like this, right? Because on one end, if you're already killing it and you're already destroying the game on maddening, getting more advantages is just it's not gonna do much. Like, you're already destroying the game. And on the other end, if you're struggling, you're probably not gonna get it. So the players who need to get it aren't gonna be getting it, and the players who can get it don't need it. So that's where I'm at. I don't need it, and it doesn't really help me, and it doesn't matter. So it's like I can go for it and I can get them, but I don't need it, so why bother? So a lot of times I'll just let the rewards go unless I can easily get it, and it's not too much of like an extra effort. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this particular topic. What do you think about these time pressure mechanics? Do you like them? Do you find them worthwhile? Do you think it's worth it to get some of these items? After doing a few maddening runs, I don't think it's really worth it. It helps you minimally. It's not like it's this huge game-changing item. If that were the case, then it would definitely be more interesting, and I'd feel like there's more on the line. But because it's just like, you know, some stat booster or some unique staff, or not even a unique staff, just like another clone of a staff, so like another rescue staff, another recover staff, I don't feel like it's even worth it to go after. Though I usually get it anyways, so it's just one of these things where it's a fun mechanic, and I think it could be implemented a little bit better. I think there could be more compelling things to go after in this way. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this interesting, and I'll see you in the next one.